Hey everyone! In today's episode, I'll take a look at some Patreon suggestions. I'll be looking at 2 attacks from 2 different shows. One attack is from Scissor 7, and the other from Blockade Battlefront. 2 shows, mind you, I know nothing about. But that might just be interesting. Instead of me being swayed by my feelings of the show, I can look at the animation without bias. Let's begin. Mr. Siddleman says, "Freaking love the part where Seven becomes his old self for a moment and uses his fractured blade to pierce through the energy shield. The impact of Seven connecting with the energy shield of Prince Stan feels so epic." Now these words meant nothing to me when I read them, but they do now. They do now. What Mr. Siddleman is talking about is the fight where Seven and his comrades are fighting against this guy. They get beat up, and they even try to sacrifice themselves in order to win. But the opponent is just too strong. But then, Seven transforms. He powers up and charges towards Stan. Stan powers up his suit and creates a big energy shield. Seven charges and smashes against the shield. He deconstructs his blade and reconstructs it behind the shield. He cuts off Stan's arm, and in the final shot, the shield dissipates. We'll start at the beginning of the attack. Seven is standing there and he readies himself. Powerful wind emanates from his body as he crouches a bit deeper. He disappears and charges towards the camera. I like how the wind appears a bit later than when Seven disappears. This makes it feel like Seven is faster than the energy he transfers, giving the charge more impact. And the zoom in on the eye is a cool transition into the next shot. But I think the poses and the animation in the beginning could use some work. Now hold up. It's easy to look at some animation, change it, add some frames here and there, and make a better version. But that doesn't take into account the time or the budget the animator had for the shot. So if I want to change anything, it has to be done in the same number of frames with relatively the same amount of work. Alright, now first, if we look at the beginning and end pose, we see that his feet don't line up. And if we play the animation, we see that his entire body slides backwards. So let's fix that by moving the last frame down a bit. If we apply that to the rest of the animation, he now takes a convincing step instead of sliding around. Let's look at the final pose. It shows that he's ready to fight, but it doesn't really feel like he's in prime position to take off. If we scoot his leg back a bit, he's more in balance and ready to go. Of course, we'll apply this to the animation as well. In between these poses, there are 4 frames, giving a total of 6 frames. Let's see what we can improve. In the second frame, let's move Seven's body up a bit. This way he starts off slow and pops more into the next frame. There isn't an anticipation frame for his movement, but we can add an anticipation in his sword arm. We slightly move the arm in the opposite direction of the next frame, so while Seven's body is going down, his arm goes up. This will make the cut pop even more, because of the bigger step in between the frames. Also, it might be cool to make his leg move from the heel. This will make the motion more expressive. His heel can overextend into the 4th frame and slowly settle into the final frame. Now the animation pops more and it has a bit more life. But what about the 3rd frame? It's a bit weird, because his upper body shrinks and extends into the next frame. But it does feel like the strength of the cut extends his body, making the cut feel stronger. So even though it's not realistic, it's not necessarily wrong. But let's try this. We'll extend his body to his normal size and give the sword arm more of an arc. The entire animation pops a bit more and now we've got arcs. But we can also do this in a completely different way. We can make Seven take a step forward while he cuts with his sword. This feels a bit more natural and there's more room for impact. In the first in-between, we can pull his leg up a bit, giving him a step instead of a slide. In the second in-between, we'll be careful of the arcs and make his hair follow the motion. When he steps on his right leg, his sword will simultaneously smack against his hand, upping the power, and then we'll relax him into the final position. This is the original. The first change, and the second. Which one do you prefer? In the next shot, Stan creates his energy shield. I like how Stan puffs up his chest before releasing all the energy into the shield. The energy flashes into the screen, and the animators can easily change Stan's pose without having to animate him. It's a great way to save a little budget. Making the energy waves come out of his hands one by one is a cool way to make the shot a little bit more interesting. In the next shot, Seven jumps in and attacks. Clustering some frames here gives a nice slow motion effect before the hit. It also gives more impact to the hit when it speeds back up. It's cool the shield changes shape and needs to restabilize in order to take the force of the hit. The special effects are what steals the shot. The changing colors in the explosion make it more electricity-like. It's cool the electricity slowly moves and the debris stands still while Seven's clothes flutter around. It gives another suspended in time feeling. I think it's weird, however, that they chose this angle for the shot. Seven was attacking from the right, going to the left. Now we've passed over the 180-degree line and he's coming from the left to the right. It can be a bit jarring, and it would probably have been better to just flip this shot. Seven's sword dematerializes and materializes back into shape. It's something Seven can do with his sword, and it's a cool idea on how to get past the barrier. Seven flips up his sword with extreme ease. This makes it feel like the sword is super sharp. The sword shoots up and cuts off Stan's arm. The way the body sways is very well done. The cut pushes his body away, Stan is out of balance and his body sways back to the right. He has to catch himself and his body turns. He turns to the right because his right leg is the pivot point. It connects well into the next shot and the energy shield dissipates. All in all, the effects are very nice, there are some cool shots, but there are just some little things that could have been better. Let's move on to a completely different attack. Elman Glory says, as to an amazing animation analysis that I'd like to see, I have a perfect one from the anime Blockade Battlefront. Specifically the scene in episode 1 of season 2, when Klaus uses his unbreakable cross shield attack. The animation is buttery smooth and is a joy to watch over and over. So in the anime, a big monster is attacking the group of heroes, and Klaus starts powering up his attack. The shot starts out in a medium frame, and slowly zooms out into a wide shot. He takes a very wide stance, readying himself for the attack. As he opens up his chest, the shot opens up as well, and beneath him a sort of gate opens up too. This simultaneous opening up makes the shot feel strong and grandiose. Let's talk about his movements. As Klaus is powering up, the left arm goes to the right and the right arm goes to the left. This makes his shoulders come together and makes the opening up of his chest larger and more dramatic. The left arm continues its movement in a nice arc. The right arm slides down the left arm and gives off quite a powerful feeling. When the gate below him opens, he quickly settles into his final pose. The impact frames are cool too, coming from below like a big wave. All in all, it's a powerful shot. The zoom out, the slow deliberate movement, the impact frames, it all adds to this grandiose feeling. In the next shot, the monster keeps running towards him. An explosion of blood occurs, which shapes into a big cross. Klaus seems to be in control of the cross, and with a big swing, he punches it towards the monster. Yet again, I'm talking about a punch. He does a big anticipation, opening up his chest. He turns his body all the way over, which makes it feel like he's pulling all his might into the twist. Even his head is turning to the side. His hand is all the way in the back, ready to uncoil and follow the rest of his body. It's such a powerful pose. Then he punches and the cross flies off. In these frames, the spacing of his arm is a bit weird. Starting from this frame, his arm takes a big step. Then there's a smaller step, and then there's a big step again. It's going from fast to slow to fast, which makes it feel less impactful. This would have been better, going from slow to faster, building up the speed, making it more impactful. What's also awesome about this shot is that the cross has a delay in its movement. He pulls back and the cross flies backwards a few frames later. When he punches, the cross starts slow and flies off with super high speed. It makes the cross feel huge and heavy. It needs a little startup to get going, but when it goes, it goes. The camera follows the cross and flies off to keep up with it. This erratic movement makes it feel like we're going at super high speeds. I had to watch the next shot 6 times before I knew exactly what was happening. Maybe because I didn't watch the show, but it goes by pretty fast. The cross smashes through the monster and comes to a smooth halt, with the monster's skin being wrapped around it, stretched to the extreme. In the next shot, the monster's skin stretched as far as it can go and rips up. It's cool that the flesh turns in opposite directions, giving it a tearing feeling. The next shot is very fun too. Before the attack, the group of heroes had to stand in a row, and here we find out why. The monster flies over the comrades and cakes them in blood. The blood splashes over them after the monster has passed. The monster moves so fast that the blood needs to catch up. This increases the sensation of speed. Also, it just works better having events happen after each other. If it happened at the same time, you probably wouldn't see it as well. It's a cool animation decision and a cool director decision. The monster slides on the ground and comes to a halt. The attack is cool, grandiose, and thought about in a fun manner. Now having 2 attacks like these feels like we're doing a comparison, and that's not really fair, since both shows probably didn't have the same time or budget. It's not like one is better than the other. Okay, Blockade Battlefront is better. But I'm just saying we're here to learn, and we can learn from both. Maybe this shot could have zoomed out a bit, and then have 7 speed up towards the camera. This way he travels a bigger distance, making him faster. Maybe in this shot we could have slowed down the animation a bit, showing us the cross flying before smashing it into the monster. It will make the action a bit clearer, at least for me. You don't always have to compare everything. There's always an opportunity to analyze, learn, and improve.